Corporate earnings. Now the thing about corporate earnings, you obviously can't have a sustained increase in the stock market unless you have increases in corporate earnings. Makes sense, right? Well, guess what? We've had 4 straight quarters of negative year-over-year earnings. And this chart shows us, the blue bar shows us what the earnings are for the S&P 500 companies, all 500 companies. Add them together, and they've been negative 4 quarters in a row. And by the way, the earnings season that starts next week, second quarter of 2016, is also expected to be negative, making it the 5th quarter in a row. And we're gonna probably see between 4 and 5% negative year-over-year earnings for this coming quarter, for the second quarter of 2016. Get it?
Are you saying there that they're losing money, or that their earnings are down as compared to a prior period?
A good question. In total, they are down year-over-year, down per the year-over-year quarter. Okay, they're in the same quarter last year. So basically, they're going to lose 4%. They're going to be 4% lower than they were the same quarter last year.
Last year. They're not losing money. They're just not making as much money as they did last year.
Correct. Correct. But this is a problem, obviously, when you go this many quarters in a row of having less earnings than you had in the year before. And the worst quarter, this is an important point, the worst quarter was the first quarter of this year. You can see that blue line is very negative. It was, between 8 and 9% lower than the same quarter of the previous year. But if you take out energy companies, then the comp was negative 0.1%. So basically, everyone else is earning about the same. Energy's making a lot less money, and it's dragging the whole index down. Does that make sense? The point here that I really want to make is that for the first time in 5 quarters, we're going to improve, compared to our year-over-year period. That doesn't mean, we're not going to be negative. We're actually still going to be negative. We're still going to be less than we were, the second quarter of last year. But we're going to be less negative. And that's the first time that trend has happened in the last 5 quarters. If we bottom in the first quarter, improve a little bit in the second quarter, then we can finally get back to positive comps in the third and fourth quarter, and that's what's expected. These are the consensus estimates for the next 2 quarters. They're expected to be much more positive. So again, we find that the things that have affected the market in kind of a negative way in the last 6 months are going to be more positive in the next 6, maybe even quite a bit more positive.
Are there any anomalies on some of the large, these I know are large companies, but it's some of the larger companies, I know like Apple came out, and didn't they have a problem with their sales with the iPhones, that their sales are down, and they're making up for it with their watch and some other new products. But is there something in there that kind of skews the number, that there's such a large company that maybe, a large percentage of companies are actually doing better, but they're not doing that much better? Am I making sense on that?
Yeah, and you're right. There are a few companies that do have a disproportional impact on these numbers. And Apple's one of them. Apple's the biggest company by market cap. And when they have a down quarter, they go from making $20 billion in a quarter to $10 billion. That skews the whole index because it's such a big number. Does that make sense? So yeah, Apple was a little negative. Exxon, their earnings have dropped considerably. They're still profitable, but they've dropped considerably, of course, because of the price of oil. They're the second largest company, so they've had a disproportional impact on that index. Does that make sense? I think you make a good point. If we take out a few of the kind of bad actors there, most other companies are doing just fine. That's a good message. So corporate earnings are improving. Can we say that? At least the trend is in the right direction.
are you assuming that increase is mainly oil coming around?
Yes, and that's a big part of it. Obviously, when you go from 26 to 50, that's going to really help their earnings quite a bit. But that didn't really happen until recently. So second quarter is going to be a little bit better for energy companies. But if we can stay at 50 or above, the third quarter is going to be a lot better even than the second quarter. And that's largely energy driven.